Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 4.0 to Pro, your pocket-sized pickleball podcast, where we teach you a single shot or strategy every single episode. I'm Michael O'Neill here in sunny Long Beach, California, joined by one Mircea Marariu there in Aspen, Colorado. Hello, sir. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm well, man. I just before, I guess it was now almost a week and a half ago, had very minor surgery that's going to take me out for a month. And I was bedridden for the first week, and now I'm kind of moving around and doing my thing. I'm fine, everybody. It's all good. It's nice to be, out in the world and enjoying summer a little bit. I've still got to take it easy, but I'm feeling pretty good.
That's great to hear, man. There's really not too many things more important than your health. And when you're not healthy, it's just limits what you can do. So I'm glad you're healthy, glad you're healing up. It's a lot easier to say than to put into application, because I know you're raring to go back out in the courts. So take it easy, my man.
Well, and everything else. I'm in the garage and I'm doing all kinds of other stuff. So it's hard for me to sit still. This, by the way, you guys, you can't hear it in our voices, but this very show is the first show that we've done on video. So I see you and your shining face, Mircea, right there in front of me. And
yes,
we have to make sure we keep each other accountable for still describing things in a way for the audio-only people, which is what this show is focused on. But yeah, we got the video set up for the first time for the YouTube folks and for the Instagram folks.
Exactly. Well, I have a face for radio, so we're trying to expand our horizons, so it's exciting.
Well, right before I went down, I convinced Kyle from Carbon to send me this little puppy.
Nice.
This is the brand new Trueform Genesis number 4. It's kind of the hybrid shape that you like to play with your Apes paddle. A little tapered on the sides, rounded on the top, and a, thankfully, longer handle. If you have a Tui, like I do, it's really nice to have that extra half-inch on the handle.
I just really like that shape. I feel it just translates really well for my game. So obviously the paddle you choose and the shape has to fit into your game style and how we hit the ball. But I really like that shape. I feel that I can maneuver it really well. I love the length. I'm not the tallest guy, so I like to be able to reach with that. Play on flicks in the kitchen and the dink volleys. So it's a really cool shape, and look forward to trying that paddle out.
Yeah, I can't wait to dig into it a little more. I only had 7 games on it or something before I went down. We're going to probably bring the Carbon folks on. We can't do an official review, not that we do those on this channel anyway, until July 23rd or something like that, when all of the paddle testing places will come out. But to me, it felt like a very natural evolution from the 2. So that is very exciting. Today, we're actually doing something that was inspired by my doubles partner at the APP Newport Beach, a tournament that one Mircea Marariu happened to take home the gold. So congratulations on that. That had to feel pretty good.
Thank you very much. I mean, it was incredibly deep men's field, and I have a great partner, Jose DeRisi. Played lights out. We communicated really well. We were really in sync the entire tournament. And first round, we played the legend Scott Moore, one of the best senior pros of all time, if not the GOAT, and Joe Periso, who is a great player in his own right. They're, Pod 1A for one of the NPL teams. That was first round. Then we played, Dane Gingrich and Chris Headings in the quarters, David George and Del Watt in the semis, and then, Marcelo Jardim and Jaime on scenes in the finals. And we just played really well, and we were fortunate to come away with the prize. The key was really our communication and being in sync with the game plan and, knowing what each other is going to do, which leads us to the topic today, which was inspired by your partner.
Yeah, I had a brand new partner. Shout out to Alan Schafrin, who we actually met at the NPL tryouts in Arizona a few months ago. Super cool dude. Lives about an hour away south here from Long Beach. And I reached out and said, hey, would you have any interest in playing this APP tournament? And he was totally down. And I actually got an invite from Michael Toe, who's another senior pro dude, and said, do you also want to play the Humana Cup? So I was able to invite Alan to play the Humana Cup, as well as my buddy Tony Joe. And Humana Cup is kind of like the NPL. It's like a 50-plus MLP style rally scoring type thing. It was so much fun. Yeah. We lost 2 heartbreakers, and sadly, both of them were a bit tainted by some referee calls.
Yep.
We lost 18-16 in the third for the first match, and I want to say 17-15 in the second match, and we were up in both and had some, let's just say, controversial calls on
that was you actually won the second match, but there was a snafu with the score, with rally scoring, and it's really tough. I mean, first of all, let me clarify, the refs are just amazing. They're really great people. They want to do a good job. Everyone makes mistakes, certainly. I have. So I just want to clarify that the refs are just awesome, and we appreciate them tremendously. Shout out to the refs.
Yeah, in the hot sun and all the things.
It's at this job. It's like every other ref, like get kind of singled out, if you will, when you make a mistake. And that's why, like, I really hate those posts on social media that, highlights a bad ref call. I just think that those are really just not useful at all.
Especially when you get into like the NFL world where everything's so bang bang and it's like it's minuscule. Anyway, here's why we're doing this show, you guys. My new partner, brand new partnership, surprised the heck out of me. Mm-hmm. It was a couple days before we started playing this tournament. We hadn't played together much. We had a chance to play before the tournament, like the Thursday before. So I went down to Encinitas and I played with him. But I want to say it was Wednesday that I got this message. It was a text message from him, Mircea. And he said, I thought I would share some of my thoughts ahead of time so we can continue to work to get on the same page. I'm in. Already I'm in. My last partner and I are rarely structured when we play. Sharing with you so you know what I've been through. It's not a right or wrong thing. It was just us. And I figure you and I will adapt accordingly to our comforts, strengths, and weaknesses. When he played left, I gave him a lot of space. He took the middle and all my dinks at my left foot. I literally would step to the right if it came to my left foot because I knew he was there and wanted it. I would take middle if he was pulled left, of course. We did the reverse when I played left, but I did not need as much of the court as he did for some reason. I used to have a habit of dinking to the right side of opponent when a dink came to my backhand when I was playing right side. Typically a very bad idea, and we agreed to go middle in that case, the majority of the time, unless that opponent was really hugging the middle and we wanted to move them. Left side player took all middle returns. He really liked me to stand towards the outside of the right-hand side when he served in order to give him room. But we both learned that too far outside created too much court for him to cover if the returner went to his backhand, and it also made more difficult for me to return with my forehand if I was too far to the right. So whoever plays right has to pay attention, and if that ball comes in the middle, give the left space to get it unless left side calls it off. We tried to make a habit of dropping and driving to the middle on returns and fifths unless we identified a weak player and could not handle the banging. 99% of the return to the player coming in unless you would catch the player at the net sleeping on a short return. We definitely would crash on the regular, especially if weak. We would pay attention when the other side would crash and see who had the better drive and who crashed and would start returning to the crasher. I think that all new partnerships' biggest challenges are coordinating around the middle and who gets what and understanding spacing. For example, my last partner and I followed an interesting pattern towards the end of every game, especially when we were up. We would work to drop the ball versus drive the last 2 points. It seems to put a lot of pressure on the opponents to do something with the ball, and even if our drops were high, they had extra pressure and would often make mistakes. Now this goes on and on and on. I'll tell you something. This is one of the greatest messages I've ever gotten. Probably the greatest message in pickleball, and certainly the greatest message from a potential partner. Your thoughts as a guy who could not harp more on communication of partners.
Oh, it's interesting because I remember when you showed it to me, you were kind of giddy with excitement, and I agreed with you. I thought it was really cool, very introspective, very honest, and very thorough. I'm sort of an analytical player, especially when it comes to strategy and communication. So I really appreciated the self-analysis as well as the sharing of his prior history. Partnership is a relationship, and while it might be a relatively brief relationship on the court, it's a relationship nonetheless. And, the most important thing in relationships is communication. And the way he was able to communicate his strengths, weaknesses, experience, wishes/desires, ideas so eloquently verbally and put them down on paper, I thought was really remarkable and obviously really helpful for you to understand his point of view, being able to read it in black and white. And then you can in turn also do some similar self-reflection and communicate that, whether you do that in writing or you do that verbally. I like to do a little bit more on the court so we can see what we're talking about. You can point to certain things. An example was, Jose and I would, figure out right before we served our pre-serve alignment. If I was to his right, we were stacking, so he was typically playing left. I would say, I'm standing here, everything to my left, you take. So it's nice to have that visual representation of what you're talking about, but it was really impressive. I want to give a shout out to Alan for such eloquence and introspection. Really, real good stuff.
And I love that there was vulnerability in it. I didn't get to all the parts, but he was like, these are some of the things I'm really good at. These are some of the things I'm not really good at. And the whole reason for this show, Mircea, is first of all, whether you have an existing partnership or not, I think this is a killer idea for both partners to write down the things that they like in a partner, the things that might be their strengths, the things that might be their weaknesses. And we did this in a living document. So what he did is he actually shared, if you have an iPhone, he shared an Apple Note with me, which is what you and I do for this show sometimes. We have an Apple Note that we share and we can just put our ideas down and then it automatically updates on the other person's phone. I love the idea of a regular partnership having a living document. And that living document is, again, in an Apple Note or a Google Doc or whatever you guys want to do. But maybe you might have all of your upcoming tournament schedule. Maybe that's at the top. You might have contact info for yourself, an emergency contact or whatever. And then you could have your own, like, here's who I am as a player. Here's what I've really experienced in a tournament setting with a partner that I really like. Here's some of the things I didn't like and how I reacted to them or whatever. And I love that just even as a living document as a tournament play, but I have another idea for it as well, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Well, I think one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, is that he's basically given you a blueprint of how he likes to communicate. So he'd like to communicate in writing, in paragraph form. It doesn't have to be paragraph form. It can be in, bullet point style. I think one of the most important thing is learning how your partner likes to communicate. There's some people that like to talk a lot while they're playing. There's some people that don't like it so much. So it's important to adapt and meet somewhere in the middle. There are partners that I've had that I've been trying to communicate and it's too much for them. So they say, that's too much. I just need to be in the zone. And whatever that means to them, that's what, I try to do. I try to limit that. So it's important to know what your partner needs and try to do that to the best of your ability and also keeping in mind your own. So it's a balance between their needs/wants and your needs/wants. Again, like almost every other relationship. And you mentioned the word vulnerability. That's really the key to connection. And if you're able to be vulnerable with yourself and open that up with your partner, that really enhances your connection. And I think that will lead to a stronger partnership and a stronger understanding of what you each need and want.
Yeah, and I love the other aspect of it where the person who's obviously doing the writing, there's a vulnerability in it where you have to really be introspective and go, all right, so these are the things I'm not that great at. But I would encourage everybody to do this exercise whether you play tournaments or not. And the reason why is if you sit down and really think about all of your rec games and things that you love, and if you're a 4.0 to pro listener, chances are you're trying to get better at pickleball. This is kind of the only thing we do, is we're trying to get you guys better from when you leave your parking lot until you get to the courts. That's the whole point of the show. So in theory, you're listening to this thinking, well, I'd certainly like to get better at pickleball. Well, if that's the case, sit down and go to a coffee shop, get your favorite cup of joe or whatever, and write down the things that either you love about pickleball, or there's no either, I guess it's and or. Write down the things you love about pickleball, write down the things that you really embrace as part of the experience, and then start writing down the things that you're like, I'm pretty good at this. Like, this is a really good shot for me, or I love hitting this shot, and here's why. And then start thinking about, oh man, when I make mistakes, it's usually because of this. I'm trying to do this. I'm either trying to hit a shot I'm not supposed to, or if it's a technical skill, like I'm trying to do a 2E backhand roll dink, and I'm just not good enough at them yet. Okay, that's fine. That just gives you something to drill. And I think sitting down and thinking about it in that respect, and you could be on a walk and you could be dictating it, which is what I do, but going through your game in that respect and really stepping away, because I think we've seen this, Mircea, when you're on the court, you don't have any time to do that. We talked about it, a couple episodes ago, where there was another partner that I was going to use for this APP, and we never got a chance ever to have any of these discussions before we were like on the court playing a game. And that's not the time to have these thought processes and discussions.
I just got off the court playing a couple hours. I played with a new partner here, so we played almost 2 hours, and I had never played with this partner. So we didn't have the opportunity to have the length or breadth of the conversation that you had or the document that your partner shared. We weren't able to have that extensive of a discussion, but we lost the first couple games and just some things weren't making sense to me in terms of how the points were being constructed. And I just said in between, we talked very briefly. I was like, hey, what are your favorite shot? Do you like to drive, thirds? Which side do you like to play? And hey, how about we drive or drop to the person that's moving? Like really simple things. Hey, instead of attacking from the midcourt, let's try dropping across court. Like very simple strategies. And we lost the first couple games, and then we dominated the next couple games. And it was really incredible how much that little communication made a difference in terms of the point production. We were not in control in the points for the most part, even though they were relatively competitive games in the first two games. And then we controlled almost every point subsequently in the next couple games. So I really think it can make a difference even in the short, brief moments between points if you're able to be direct and clear. And it can be as simple as picking a target. Let's drive to Tom. Let's drive or drop to Tom. Something like that. And I think that can really make a difference.
Should be regular conversation in most games, especially if you play multiple games with someone. I think what struck me about this particular message from Alan was I really want to establish a partnership on the court. This is a big deal. We're going into this large tournament. People are paying hundreds of dollars for this. People being us, we're paying hundreds of dollars for this. And let's not have communication breakdowns. But I really liked, again, kind of how introspective it was.
Yep.
So I do believe that in general, and I think also with the further you go up the food chain, you're a 5-point-something player, maybe a 6-point-something player. When you get on court with another 5.0 plus player, most of them generally know the main bones of how to make this work. It's that in between 4.0 to pro or 4.0 to maybe 5.0 where I think sometimes people need to be encouraged in a certain way or shown a certain thing to go, oh, that's the way it's supposed to work.
But it's even more important in the 4.0 to 5.0 range where you need to communicate because sometimes things don't make as much sense. Like you expect someone to speed up straight and they're going cross court or, they're going cross middle to a lefty's forehand. I always reiterate every time I talk between points, it's not about criticism. It's not about the last point. It's to focus on the next points, on the points coming up. And it's helpful for you to share that vulnerability, and it can even a small scale. Like if I'm missing drives, I'm usually not low enough or I'm leaning back. So I'll tell my partner, tell me knees, tell me feet, or I'll miss some balls and, I'm not moving my feet as well. I'll say, remind me knees, knees, feet, those things like that. And those are things.
Well, hold on a second. I want to stop you right there because that in and of itself is you really hanging your ego up and saying, look, if you see something, say something. And not everybody is like that. In fact, I would think that most people aren't. But if you're listening to this show, I think we all have this idea of that we do want to get better. And I love that. I do the same thing. I'm like, bro, if you see me doing something weird and someone said, yeah, you're pulling up on your backhand dink a little bit. I'm like, all right, I just missed 4 of them. That makes sense. Let me stay down and keep my knees bent until I fully finish the shot. And from that point on, I was more consistent. But that's a really vulnerable, non-ego thing for you to do.
I want feedback. I'm far from perfect. No one's perfect. I am an ultra perfectionist, yet we all fall short. I love feedback. So if I'm doing something that isn't great, like I need feedback. I'll share what happened at NPL this weekend. I played mixed with my partner, Audra Spielberger. I'm super intense when I get out there. And sometimes when I get frustrated, I'll be frustrated with the outcome of a point. And it's not intended at my partner, yet my partner feels the frustration. The fact that I'm frustrated about the point doesn't matter. My body language might not be great. It's not directed at my partner, yet my partner doesn't know that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know,
It's almost contagious.
Yeah, so I played a mixed match with her, and her husband came up to me after. He's like, hey, your body language wasn't great in that match. I told her, I said, I'm sorry, my apologies, I'm going to do better. And the next match, I really concentrated on focusing on that, and I tried to do better. And then I asked him afterward, I was like, how did I do? And I greatly appreciated it. And it wasn't criticism, and maybe, other people look at it like it was. I didn't do a good job in that match with my body language. To know
Right.
that, other people need to tell me that, because I'm in the heat of battle. That's why coaching can be so important. But feedback from anyone is something that you can improve on. I welcome it. I need suggestions. I need help, just like everyone else. I'm not a 7.5 player. But even those players, when they get in certain patterns that are stuck, they need feedback. So for me, look, I'm grateful for the feedback. And thank you, Scott. Shout out to Scott for helping me out on that. Thank you.
I think the moral of that particular story is that you were able to tell your partners, it's okay. I'm giving you permission if you see something to say something. I think where things get dicey is when you don't have permission and people start coaching people, like having a strategy conversation versus a shot or a player conversation is kind of two different things. You know what I mean?
But I encourage people to just open yourself to getting some feedback, because it can really help your game and really improve your game. And if you're not playing that great, maybe a little bit of feedback would help you adjust and improve things.
Well, you know what it is? It reminds me a bit of if you use a video camera and you film one of your games or even your practice, you'll be like, oh my God, I had no idea I was doing this so many times, or my footwork was this way or whatever. If you don't have a camera, this is probably the next best thing. Is asking your partner, hey man, if you see something that I'm doing weird, especially again at this level, you get to a point where when everybody on the court is regularly practicing and drilling and trying to get better, we're all pretty not only self-aware, but we tend to be aware of what faults cause certain things, what mistakes cause certain things. And sometimes it's just a blind spot and you don't see it. Like early on, maybe a couple of years ago, I had a real habit, even though we talked split step, of running through the transition zone. And that third shot for me was on the move versus stopping and hitting, like we've talked about 84,000 times on the show. And I still have to remind myself, like, plant and really be stable for this ball. It makes all the difference in the world, especially in this 8 or 9 feet of transition zone where one errant ball ends the point, whether it's in the net or long, or you put a ball high and that's all over. Like, let me control the things that I can control, which is like my body positioning and my stability through the shot. So it's one of the things that I have to remind myself of. And if having another person there to go, hey man, if you see me doing something particular, feel free to point it out. I'm in a growth mode today, this weekend, whatever.
Hey, we can all grow. We can all learn. That's one of the beauties of this sport, and the beauty of the community is that you just, you get to meet more people, learn different partnership styles. You get to connect with others, and it's sort of like a dance you do with your partner. Sometimes give, it's sometimes take, and, sometimes you need to be supportive. Sometimes you need to be direct, but you really need to be, I call it open, honest, direct communication. And, if you can do that, if you can master that, either in the written form, ideally verbal, or maybe both, I really think you're going to connect with your partner in a way that it's going to improve your results and your partnership, both on and off the court. And that's really what it's all about, right? I mean, that's why we play pickleball, right?
100%. I'm going to give a quick shout out as we wrap this show up. Mircea, when you started this, you didn't even know how to hold a microphone. This was 40 episodes ago. And we just started our first video pod, and you were perfect. You were right on it, right looking in the camera. You were poised. This is harder, isn't it? A little harder to do. You can't just hang out on the couch and fall back and sip your wine like we might.
Exactly. It requires a little bit extra focus. And, again, perfect is something I'm not, but I appreciate the positive feedback. I'll always take it.
2 takeaways from this episode, 2 action items for you guys. Number 1, next time you get on the courts, if you are with someone who's familiar, who's your partner, just say, if you see something, say something. If you see me doing something weird and they know enough, and this is probably a worthy note, if they know enough about what they're looking for, they have to have some version of like, okay, I can tell when someone's footwork is weird or something like that. So if you see me do something weird, please feel free to say something. And 2, write yourself an assessment. Sit down and kind of write what you like about pickleball, what you don't like about pickleball, what you're really great at, what you need to work on, how you like to show up on court, how you like people to communicate with you, et cetera, et cetera. Put that down, because every single time you get a new partner, this is a really, really worthy thing to share with them. And I think you guys will be better off for it.
And I'd add one more thing, be open and vulnerable. Just try it, It's going to enhance your relationship with your partner, both on and off the court. And I think it's tremendous value, in life in general, but also for a pickleball partnership. Just be open and vulnerable.
Love it. Folks, you've now just listened to another episode of 4.0 to Pro, your pocket-sized pickleball podcast. I hope you guys enjoy the courts this weekend. I hope you are open and vulnerable and
exactly.
Until then, we will see you guys next time.
Yes, and see you is the appropriate word, I guess, this time, Michael. There you go. See what I did there?
Look at you.
Seasoned pro.